Okay, so let's start over with this malware and viruses. Malware is a type of malicious software. It performs different types of actions depending on its intended use. But malware is always going to perform adverse actions, actions that the target or the user does not want. So whether that's stealing information or showing advertisements, all different types of actions can be performed using malware. It's a malicious software. It's something that's unwanted. Within malware, you have different types of malware. You have viruses, worms, Trojan horses, rootkits. All of these things are types of malware. So if you see a virus, or a worm, or Trojan horse, just know that it all falls under the umbrella of malware. So malware is a general term. Depending on its goal, malware will have different functions. Adware or spamware is used to show advertisements to a user, to a target. So these take the form of pop-ups, either in a notification bar or just a window that would pop up, maybe a browser window very often, that pops up and shows an advertisement to the target. And what this is designed to do is to try and get the target or the user to click on that advertisement. This type of malware is much more common in the 90s and the early 2000s, less so today because it's a clear indication. Most people understand that that means that your device has been infected with malware. Another example of malware is malware designed to steal information. And this type of malware includes keyloggers, it's a type of malware that records your keystrokes on your computer to try and target your passwords, your personal information that you might input into a secure website. So it would be monitoring the inputs, the keystrokes that you would put in as a user. That type of malware can also scan your computer. Well, not a keylogger, but malware designed to steal information would scan your computer for possible personal information. So it might scan for a string of characters that represents a social security number or something that looks like an address, and it would look for documents that can contain this personal information so that it can send that information off to the hacker or attacker that infected your device. A very common type of malware today is malware that recruits your computer to be part of a botnet. And a botnet is a group of devices, group of target devices. They could be geographically dispersed. That means they could be located not necessarily in the same place all across the world. And all these devices have been infected with the same type of malware. That means that that device can be used by the hacker or the attacker to perform different functions. Oftentimes, botnets are used in distributed denial of service attacks, which means that the device will be asked to make a request on a target website, try and access a target website or a web resource. And when all these devices access that at once, it causes that website to go down. Malware can also blackmail a target user. Once it finds information, kind of like stealing information, it can notify the user with maybe a message prompt on their computer saying, hey, this would be a message from the attacker. I have access to your information. I need you to pay me in cryptocurrency, or I'll release this, or I'll delete this information. Ransomware is very similar. Ransomware will encrypt a target device. So encrypt a laptop or a computer or a tablet, encrypt all of the information on the device, and then provide a message to the user saying, you need to pay us or we will not give you back access to your data. So that's called ransomware. It's a very common attack currently. A virus, again, is a type of malware that can reproduce itself. It could create another copy of itself. So viruses will replicate when a program is executed, most likely. And this is how you have Trojan horses. Trojan horse is a type of malware that would act as a legitimate piece of software. So you would download what you thought would be a legitimate file, executed, and that legitimate file might do what it said it was going to do, but it would also include a virus. And when you execute that legitimate file, a virus would infect your target device. So viruses can reproduce when a program executes, and then they'll hide themselves within different file systems on your device. They can also replicate when you click a download link. So if you click a download link for a file, it might contain a virus, and then your device could be infected. Antivirus software is designed to detect and remove viruses. Now, modern antivirus software doesn't just detect viruses, it detects most types of malware. So, but because viruses are so prevalent, that's how that name stuck. Antivirus software was designed for viruses and most types of malware, but because viruses are so common, that's where you get the name antivirus software. And it's still used today. You still say antivirus software, even though antivirus software also looks for rootkits, worms, all different types of malware. Different types of viruses include a boot sector virus, which will infect the master boot record to obtain administrative privileges. This is either the administrator account, okay, or the root account within a Linux or Unix device. A direct action virus embeds itself in computer memory, so it makes itself more difficult to detect. And a macro virus executes itself when you run a macro on a Microsoft Office application. Different Excel spreadsheets or Microsoft Word documents might have macros, which are different scripts that could perform functions within the program. And if you have those macros enabled, then if that program or that spreadsheet is infected with a virus, when you execute one of those macros, your computer is also infected with the virus. And a directory virus will code itself into a file system and mark that file system as allocated. So it hides itself in a file system, marks a segment of the file system as allocated, so that when scans are conducted on memory, the virus remains hidden. And that's a form of stealth technique, much like these as well. Viruses can sometimes encrypt themselves and encrypt all the files involved in the virus. And in that way, the virus is trying to hide itself from an antivirus software which wouldn't have the permissions or the means to decrypt those files. And then the virus would also include a decryption module within each infected. So it have the ability to encrypt itself, and then when it replicates, encrypt other portions of the memory. Modification viruses these types of, or this technique, a modification technique, is when the virus modifies code, modifies its own code to prevent itself from popping up as an antivirus signature. So a lot of antivirus programs work by looking at signatures. They're signature based. And a signature is a set of instructions or a pattern that represents what a virus would look like. So what the virus will do is actually rewrite its own code to avoid that signature detection. And polymorphic encryption combines that encryption technique and that modification technique. Okay, so the virus not only encrypts itself with an encryption and decryption module, but then that module is modified and altered with each infection. So you're having a code that's changing and encrypted at the same time. The countermeasures to a virus are to use antivirus software. Keep it up to date. Keep those signature files up to date. Modern antivirus firms look on a daily basis at thousands and thousands of signature files. They update these files, and these signature files are pushed out to the antivirus software through the internet. Only visit trusted websites. Don't click on download links. Don't have your users click on download links from websites that are not trusted. Those programs or those files that they're downloading could contain Trojan horses, which would include viruses. Scan removable hardware before allowing that hardware onto a computer or onto a network, and update programs and operating systems so that vulnerabilities won't exist for long periods of time on your computer. You want to update your programs, update your operating systems, because those updates include security changes, security configuration settings that are designed to protect against these viruses. And oftentimes, viruses are sent via email links or email attachments. So if possible, don't click on links through email. Navigate to the website that you want instead. So if you get a notification from your bank saying we need you to log into your account, just go to the bank's website that you would normally use to log in instead of clicking on that link from the email, because that email could be a type of phishing attack. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about worms. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat. If you want to go over any topics, let me know, and we'll do that. A worm is a form of self-replicating malware. Worms can not only infect a target computer, but then they can replicate themselves across a network connection to other devices. Once a worm infects a network, it can spread very rapidly. And at that point, perimeter defenses like firewalls, perimeter firewalls, won't do anything to protect the network against the worm. So once a worm gets into a network, it can be very devastating for that network, and it can spread incredibly quickly. I'm talking within a matter of seconds. Worms will use different network protocols. They might use a form of software, or they might use email to perform their replication and to send themselves to different devices. Because they can spread so quickly, they can be incredibly destructive. Some famous examples include in 2000 you had the I love you worm, and this worm would send a message to all of the contacts in a recipient's Outlook contacts list. So when it did that, it sent an email, so it used email to replicate itself, and the email would have I love you within the subject line. That's why it's called the I love you worm. And this worm spread so rapidly. It's a little sad, I think, because people were thinking, oh, maybe somebody really cares for me. I better open this email, see who it is, and it's really just a virus or a worm. Kind of a shame. Anyway, WannaCry was discovered in 2017, and this used an exploit created by the National Security Agency, or NSA, U.S. agency. They had an exploit called Eternal Blue, okay, and that allowed the NSA to tap into different network connections across the internet. So WannaCry discovered this, or the hackers behind WannaCry discovered this Eternal Blue, and then they used it to send a worm. So it really didn't look very good for the NSA. And what the worm did is it conducted ransomware attacks. So it infected the target device, and then it would encrypt all the files on that device and then send a message to the user saying you need to pay us in cryptocurrency, or you need to pay us this amount of money, or we're going to keep your files encrypted. And this caused millions of dollars in damages. The Morris worm was developed in 1988. This is an older worm, but it's a worm you should know about. It's kind of a famous example. So it's developed by a Cornell student as an internet sizing tool. Okay. So Morris developed the worm. He thought he could measure the size of the internet with his tool. But the problem was the tool worked as intended, but it could infect a computer multiple times. So when it infected a computer, the same computer can be infected with the worm over and over again. And then it would use all the system resources on that computer to perform this internet sizing survey, and it would basically crash the computer. So the Morris worm was the first worm to gain widespread media attention, and it kind of put the public awareness, or raise the public awareness for types of internet attacks. Before then, people didn't really know that these types of attacks could occur, or really they didn't know much about the internet at all. Remember, this is 1988. So how do you combat a worm? Well, once a worm infects your network, it's pretty difficult. You're going to need a trained incident response team that can move quickly and segment different areas of your network to try and prevent the spread of that worm. Once it's in your network, host-based devices, host-based firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, intrusion detection systems can help you slow the worm and prevent it from spreading further. Remember, perimeter devices, once a worm has infected your network, aren't going to help. A perimeter firewall is going to do nothing. And keeping your operating system up to date, keeping software up to date, that is all going to help against worms that the security community already knows about. Remember, there's still zero-day exploits, and no amount of updating can protect against those. But to protect against known worms and known attacks, keeping your system up to date, keeping your operating system up to date is still an excellent idea. Okay, that's going to end our study session today. If you have any questions, let me know. info@cybercrafttraining.com. And if you want to check out our Security Plus course, we get you certified in 1 week, guaranteed, full money back guarantee if you're not satisfied within 14 days. So check it out. Click the link in the description. I'd love to have you as a student. Join our community, and we send you not only you can join the course, but if you want to sign up for the Cybercraft community, we send you study guides every week. We send you articles, and we keep you up to date with the trends in cybersecurity. So it's a great way to further your career in cybersecurity. But thanks for joining me today.